Welcome to Lead Boldly, the podcast for purpose-driven leaders ready to bring strategy to life, develop teams, and drive lasting impact through continuous improvement. I'm your host, Deondra Wardelle, founder of On to the Next One Consulting. This strategic leadership podcast encourages you to continue to lead boldly with clarity and courage, align your team around a shared purpose, and transform your organization's strategic plan from paper to practice. In each episode, we'll explore how to turn vision into action, build organizational capacity, and make strategy something your team can live out every day. Let's dive in. I am thrilled to introduce our guest, Tamara Winfrey-Harris. Tamara Winfrey-Harris is the president of Women's Fund of Central Indiana, which answers the call of community by investing in systems change, advocating for women's rights, and building collective power for women and girls. Women's Fund envisions an Indiana where all who identify as women and girls execute full power to decide how to live their lives. Tamara is also a nationally renowned writer, speaker, and thought leader, focusing on issues of race and gender and their intersection with politics, popular culture, and current events. Her work has been published in the New York Times, the Atlantic, Los Angeles Times, Ms. Magazine, and other media. She has been invited to speak on issues of gender, race, and social justice at venues across the country, including The Ohio State University, Northern Arizona University, Princeton University, and others. In spring semester 2022, Tamara served as Liberator in Residence for Bennett College, a women's HBCU in Greensboro, North Carolina. She is the author of the award-winning book, The Sisters Are All Right, Changing the Broken Narrative of Black Women in America, as well as Dear Black Girl, Letters from Your Sisters on Stepping into Your Power, and the forthcoming A Black Woman's Guide to Getting Free. She is the board president of ACLU Indiana, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and the Links Incorporated. Please welcome Tamara Winfrey-Harris. Tamara, thank you for joining the Lead Boldly podcast.
Hello, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is such a full circle moment. You've been with me since the beginning of my journey when I founded and launched On to the Next One Consulting. We've had so many wonderful interactions, such a great journey together. So it only made sense for you to be our first guest on the Lead Boldly podcast. So before we dive into the heart of your leadership journey, I want to know, what is something that is bringing you joy or inspiration in this moment?
Nature, which I know many people who listen to this who know me may be surprised because I also hate hot weather. So it's summertime. So the idea that I'm actually outside is shocking. But there is something peaceful and restorative to me, especially when I'm standing beside a lake, so standing beside water, or in the middle of the forest. There's something calming that helps me clear my head and get clarity and get centered. And so one of the things I did, I had a week off in the middle of the summer and I decided to use it as a reset. And I made a point to every day going to one of the amazing green spaces that we have in central Indiana and just take some time to walk and be. I especially fell in love with Richie Woods Nature Preserve that's there in Fishers. So I've been spending time this summer forest bathing and being outside and gaining inspiration from nature.
I love that. And you talked about something as you're out experiencing nature, how you were able to reset. And it's so important that leaders take that time to reset to
Mhm.
help gain clarity on,
Mhm.
because there are so many things that demand your attention, and taking that time to get focused and recentered is so very important.
I think for leaders, there's very often so many things going on in our heads. Like we have to juggle so many balls. I feel for me, stepping out into nature is an opportunity to clear some of those things away so that I can
Mhm.
listen to myself and what myself is telling myself. Sometimes you have all these competing voices of needs, your board, your colleagues, your staff, all of these things. You need some time to sort of quiet your mind so you can hear what you need to do next.
Absolutely. I love that so much. So, Tamara, what is something you are most proud of in your leadership journey that reflects both strategy and people development coming together?
I would say what I'm proud of right now is the team that I'm building.
Mhm.
When I stepped into my role at Women's Fund, I had two FTEs, me and one other person, but we have very ambitious goals, goals to lead boldly when it comes to women and girls. And so I am very grateful that I got the go ahead to build out a team, but who I choose is going to be really important. We have big work to do. This is a difficult time. We live in a state that doesn't do a good job in taking care of the health and well being for women. Um, and so I need people who are willing to advocate for us in a difficult state. I need them to be unbowed. So, I need them not to get knocked off their perch when we see new policies and things coming down the pike that aren't great. I need them to be problem solvers to figure out how we need to move forward. And I need to figure out how to nurture my team because they are super smart and I know they do great work, but it is also difficult work. So I have to figure out all of those things. And so far, I've been able to assemble some absolutely amazing professionals that are working on behalf of women in central Indiana. And we are working well together. We have a good idea of what our priorities are and what we need to say no to and what we need to say yes to. And I think that's not always easy, especially not easy right now. And I've been able to do it. So pat on the back for me.
You pat on the back, and you know what? And let me shake my pink praise egg for you,
Shake
because
it.
I'm shaking it to celebrate that. Tamara, one of the many things that I admire about you is your focus on people and your leadership style. The opportunities I've had to work with you in some of your previous roles and even a bit in your current role, what's always top of mind for you is what's in the best interest of people, both your team and then the community in which Women's Fund serves.
Mhm.
And along with that, you have led multiple large scale initiatives, so many moving processes all happening at the same time, from philanthropy strategy to brand leadership to fundraising, all the things. How do you turn a bold organizational vision into clear, actionable steps for your team that's aligned with the mission?
So now I think you might know my answer to this, and it's kind of a nerd answer, but I feel like you're going to appreciate it. For me, a good strategic plan is key. Which is something that I know you do in your work. I was very lucky that my board. So I took on this role as only the second president in Women's Fund's history. So when I took over, my predecessor, the fantastic Jennifer Pope Baker, had been in her position for almost 30 years. We are almost 30 years old, and we needed to figure out how it is that we serve women and girls today. It's not 1996 anymore. So much has changed. But what our strategic plan has allowed us to do is one in a state where there could be many priorities, it lets us know what our priorities are. So again, what we say yes to and what we say no to, what we're going to do first, what resources we need to do in order to do it, and how we're going to measure whether or not we're successful or not. So I think a strategic plan is key, but the other key is the strategic plan can't be a static document that you put on your shelf and then never look at again. So we completed a strategic plan at the end of 2023. Um, and then we revisited it again at the beginning of this year with our board to figure out, to look at what we had achieved and to see if there were any changes on the way we wanted to move forward. And my team will get together again in August. Now we're nearing the end of this year to talk about, has anything changed for the next year and a half? So I think having a good, I mean, you can't get anywhere, if you don't know where you're going and you don't have, like, if you don't have your GPS, you're not going to get there. So, having a solid plan and then being willing to make that plan nimble and responsive to what's going on at any given time.
So you are exactly right. Your answer warmed my heart because it does go back to a strategic plan, and not just a strategic plan for the sake of having one, but it really needs to be a living document that everyone understands, everyone embraces. The
Mm-hmm.
other part of strategy that's so important is alignment. So, how do you ensure alignment across various levels of the organization when you rolled out the strategic plan or any initiative that you and your team are leading? How do you ensure that alignment?
Well, I think good, open, solid conversation, communication is important.
Mhm.
So that means I have to bring everybody along at every level, and everybody on the team has to know what part of like, everybody has to be invested in the strategic plan and understand what part they play in making it successful. So that's every role. The strategic plan isn't just for the executives or, just for the directors, it's for everybody. So making sure that everybody on the team is learning about what's going on in the organization and everybody understands the strategic plan and their role. So we are all rowing in the same direction
Mhm.
and feel like a team.
Good. And that inclusion is so important.
Mhm.
I often say it's so important that everyone sees themselves in the vision and how it applies to
Mhm.
what they do in their daily work. As a leader, I'm confident you've had to make some complex and sometimes some decisions that are like, people may be wondering, what, Tamara? What are you talking about? And so when it's time for you to make those decisions, how do you approach decision making in a way that balances, what's in the strategic plan, the mission, the organizational vision, and the needs of the people?
I think sticking to, and here's another thing that comes up in the strategic plan, is your organizational values, and knowing what values underpin the work that you do, that underpin your mission. And those values are not just external values, those values are internal values as well. So, for instance, when we talk about having the value of having women as decision makers in their lives, well, that can't just be what I champion outside of Women's Fund, or that Women's Fund goes and talks to other organizations how you make things better for women. No, we have to live that as well. So I think it helps to be guided by your organization's values. And so in everything you do, whether you're hiring a new team member or you're separating from a new team member, there are ways to do all of those things with dignity and with humanity and leading with your values.
Mhm. And Tamara, in talking about that dignity and value and demonstrating respect for people, that's one of the core tenets of continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is about always looking for ways to improve upon processes while demonstrating respect for people. Continuous improvement is a central theme of this podcast.
Mhm.
So, and I'm unsure if people know this about you, but you're a certified Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. So how do you,
Yeah.
yes, you are. So how do you embed a mindset of continuous improvement within your team culture and your own leadership practices?
Well, sometimes you bring in someone like a Deondra Wardelle to do early to do early work with your team, so that they have that mindset when they approach their work. Um, I like to, not only lead our teamwork focused on how can we always make it better, and examining our processes and seeing where there's gum in the works,
Mhm.
problems that we need to undo, but also for my team to think of their own work and lives holistically in terms of continuous improvement, to be able to communicate to me what they need in order to do their work better and also to be supported.
That definitely warrants a shaking of the egg,
Mhm.
because that is so important. You want to ensure that your team has what they need to be successful, and that the line of communication is open, and that there is trust, so there's no fear about raising their hand. You have that
Mhm.
psychologically
Mhm.
safe space, because you're all rowing in the same direction together, working on a
Yep.
common mission.
Yep.
Love that. Love that. Tamara, what is one step that you would recommend for leaders who are listening? One step you would recommend for leaders to take today to
Mhm.
step out of their comfort zone and shift from dreaming to doing?
Ooh. Well, first of all, I think what often keeps us from achieving our dreams is that we don't prioritize them. And so, with my organization, for just the way I approach my organization, I use a full focus planner. So I use the program developed by Michael Hyatt. And I love the idea that they champion, which is identifying three big rocks, or the three big things that you need to achieve for a week or for a day, and focus on those things. So I think, very often, for instance, when I had a dream to write a book, everything else, even though that was a big thing for me, a big rock for me, I never made it the most important thing in a day. Everything else was the most important thing. So my dream thing got, shoved in there whenever I could make time for it. And if I continued to do that, then I would never have had three books published. So it is, one, being able to identify what is really important to you, both from a professional organization, individual, and then making time for the biggest and most important things first. First, and plotting out how you get to that dream, all of those things. And then all of the things you need to do to stand up those dreams are your priorities. So this is your personal strategic plan. And so you can work towards those things that are most important first before you work in those other things around them.
Absolutely. Having a strategic plan, it's not limited to organizations. You can also
Exactly.
have individual personal strategic plans that help you
Hmm.
identify whatever your big, bold, audacious dream is. What
Hmm.
is the first step you need to take? How do you prioritize it? Just like you said, and keep moving on to the next one. So you're iterating toward and working continuously toward achieving that dream.
Yep.
So, Tamara, as we wrap up, it's time for rapid fire. Dun, 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 dun,
Uh-oh, did you
dun.
tell me about this?
Rapid fire.
Oh my goodness.
Three quick questions.
Okay, I'm
What
ready.
immediately comes top of mind, and
Oh,
just let it rip.
I feel the pressure.
Do you
Okay.
feel the pressure? Dun, 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 dun. I need a sound effects machine. I'm doing my own sound effects, but that's what works right now. The first question. Are you ready?
Ready.
What does lead boldly mean to you in one sentence?
It means to lead fearlessly. So there are a lot of scary things we have to do with leaders, but knowing how to make good decisions, and then once you make them, standing behind them. As they said in Black Panther, We Never Freeze.
We never freeze.
Never
I
freeze.
love
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
love that. Tamara, share
Yeah.
a favorite leadership resource, book, or habit you would recommend to our audience.
Ooh, well, I'll mention the one that I just did. I love the full focus approach. I use a full focus planner. I've read the books by Michael Hyatt, and it just makes sense to me in the way that I organize my to dos because I'm a person that needs structure. If I don't have a to do list, I am all over the place and I become reactive instead of proactive. So, full focus planners, I recommend.
Oh, that's great. We'll also include that information in the show notes for our listeners to access. And then finally, because you are so involved, you're doing so many amazing things that's not only making the state of Indiana better, that's really making this world a better place to live. So, what's the best way for our listeners to reach you and follow your impactful work?
Well, you can always learn about me at my website, which is tamarawinfreyharris.com. Easy peasy. You can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn, as well as Blue Sky. I'm trying. I'm trying to be more visible on Blue Sky. And I would ask you to visit womensfund.org, especially if you live in Indiana. Women are 52% of the central Indiana population and half of the Indiana population, yet our state, from the Institute of Women's Policy Research, has a D for maintaining the health and well being for women. And if things are not working for us in the community, that means they are just not working because we are not a fringe group. We are half of the population. So if you want to get engaged in women and girls, and advocating for them in Indiana, I would ask you to visit the womensfund.org site as well.
And we'll also make sure that all of the ways to contact you are available in the show notes so that people can follow you, and especially the important work that's happening within Women's Fund. The report that was published recently on the state of affair for women and girls in Indiana was eye-opening, to say the least. Yes. So, Tamara, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insight and your pearls of wisdom. And thank you to everyone who tuned into this episode of Lead Boldly. Don't forget to subscribe to our Lead Boldly podcast series, which is available on all podcast platforms and my YouTube channel. Until then, remember to embrace your royal calling, to lead boldly, build strategically, and impact endlessly. Thanks for tuning in to Lead Boldly, the podcast for purpose-driven leaders ready to bring strategy to life, develop teams, and drive lasting impact through continuous improvement. If you found today's episode valuable, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel, visit DeondraWardelle.com, and follow me on LinkedIn to stay connected as we continue to lead boldly, build strategically, and impact endlessly.
Keep on moving on.